Okay, so everybody liked the whole analysis video that I did for Dark Souls 1's level design, so I thought I'd do another video, and this is a video we've been wanting to do for a while. But, right, before we get in it, before you dislike this video, right, just blindly, please at least hear me out first, right? The video is not intended as an attack against your personal taste. It's really meant as a discussive piece on the game itself. Now, very quickly, again, this video is probably going to sound very ranty and bitchy and whiny and complainy, and that's kind of the point, because that's exactly what I'm doing about the game. But you try and look past that. If I'm grating on you, just turn the video off or whatever. Just, this video isn't for you. But I really want to go into depth as to why I think this game is really fucking terrible, and I just get kind of passionate, and that's probably why it'll sound kind of whiny. Maybe, I don't know if it does. Hopefully it doesn't. But yeah, just putting it as a heads up there, because I really don't want anyone coming in here like on my other videos and taking things that I say out of context or just complaining blindly. I would really like it if people could take what it is that I'm saying and actually discuss on the points that I'm making, as opposed to the way I'm making the points. Actually just concentrate on what the actual points are. I personally feel very strongly about the quality of this game and its overall effect on the gaming landscape. To sum up, I genuinely feel that this game is literally one of the worst games I've ever played in my life, and in this video I will go into detail as to why I think this, like a lot of detail, right? Not only this, the bad business practices that revolve around the game are also fucking abhorrent, and we'll touch on that as well. It's clear that the logic behind the design of this game was to appeal to the broadest audience possible, and I'll go into much more depth on the problems of streamlining games in the future, but to sum up, by trying to make the game appeal to everyone, it basically made it appeal to fucking no one. Even casual players that I know think the game is repetitive as fuck, and it is. The raw stats speak for themselves when Battlefield 4, a game 2 years older than Battlefront, has about 5 times as many players playing it. Because of all this streamlining, the game essentially has no longevity. You can see everything the multiplayer has to offer in under 10 hours easily, and every match you play will basically be the exact fucking same. The problem is that the game wasn't sold on its streamlined gameplay, it was sold on nostalgia and marketing. Frankly, the most people that bought the game got it thinking it would be the same game from their childhood, just with flashy graphics, or they seen the trailers and saw crazy Star Wars shit going on, and the mind was made up straight away. Despite the fact that the game plays fucking nothing like the trailers. And this is the problem, the game could have been just as deep as core fans would have wanted, and it could still have appealed to the casual player base because, oh, cool Star Wars shit, that would still have been there. The people that wanted that could still have gotten that, and the core players could still have gotten a deeper team-based shooter experience. But let's be fair, EA got their money, idiots still bought it, and making a simple as fuck game is much easier than making a deeper one, so really the only people that suffer are the consumer, and in this scenario, EA still got exactly what they wanted, money. Since the beta of this game, I knew it was going to be hot garbage. The amount of game that is actually in this product is resoundingly small, especially for the price tag. People said things like, oh, it's only a beta, or wait for the full game. However, I am much smarter than this, and I know a dud when I see one. I've been bitten in the ass way too many times over the years, and I've gotten smart. I mean, the beta was out a month before release, what could they really have fucking changed? Anyway, I've wanted to make this video for a real long time now, but only recently did I actually buy the game in order so I could really go into depth with it and know that my words are actually backed up by experience other than what I had with the beta. However, before we start breaking down the game, I want to go over a few things and actually debunk some of the complaints that I've heard about the game now that I've played more of it. So first of all, this game is not at all a Battlefield clone. If you've ever said that about this game, you're a fucking moron that has never played the first 2 Battlefront games, and or Battlefield. In fact, as far as shooting games go, it couldn't be much further from Battlefield. However, I'm going to go into depth as to why this is later on in the video, obviously. I'm sure you guys will know that of course I'm going to praise the graphics and sound design. It's clear that most of the effort for this game was put into these areas, and frankly that part of the game shines. It's a pleasure to look at, and you know, really credit where credit is due. I've never seen rocks look fucking better than this. Additionally, the amount of gameplay modes on offer is actually quite a lot, and it is more than the original Battlefronts. You may not like all the modes, but they are quite varied, and there is something for everyone really. Although, given how limited the actual core gameplay is, the amount of different experiences you get from these modes is really quite limited. Now, they have also added some free content to the game, which is good, with maps and the hut contracts for new items, so the game isn't quite as barren as it was on release, thank God. But even then, it can't make up for the bad things that the game does on a mechanical level. Lastly, I want to say that I was going into this experience under the impression that all of the main guns would handle almost identically, but I felt like this actually wasn't really the case. I didn't even unlock all the weapons, and I'll get to why that is, but the ones that I did get felt quite different honestly. The main issue is it appears that the basic guns you get to start the game are probably the most effective for most situations, which is fair, but the other guns feel a little redundant. This is about all the praise I can actually give for the game, honestly, because every single mechanic of this game has basically been dumbed down to that of a child. There is basically nothing that can't be improved upon in this game. So let's talk about the game then, shall we? Like, where do we start? So, we'll talk about the biggest change that they made from this game from the previous Battlefronts. The removal of the class system. This has changed a huge amount of how the game is played, and frankly, I would say for the worst. The removal of classes essentially removes about 90% of the teamwork mechanics the game has to offer. The game works more like Call of Duty now, where every player is working for themselves. Essentially teamwork outside of the main team objectives like defend the signal generators. The most teamwork the game has is dropping a bubble shield, which is a fucking battle pickup, so it's hardly reliable, which was something else we will get to. This one thing alone is proof enough to say that it isn't a Battlefield clone as well. The removal of teamwork mechanics limits the amount of gameplay experiences the game can offer. You can't play a healing class anymore. Well, you kinda can, but it doesn't really work that way. And because of this, the time to kill is very low, and your HP recharges really fast, which is necessary without healing classes, which then speeds up the gameplay and encourages run and gun even more, which isn't exactly bad, but I would argue that it's far from what people wanted, and like I've said, it's very limiting in terms of gameplay experiences. You can't play support or a recon, there's nothing like that, and given the universe of Star Wars, the possibility for interesting classes was really great, and frankly they just kinda ruined it. It would be nice to see a mix of Battlefield 4 class systems with the Star Wars lore, or even just put back the fixed classes like the old Battlefronts had. The removal of systems basically encourages players to just stick on a gun, a jetpack, grenades, and just go for max kills, as that is 100% the most effective way of raking up points, and objectives do not give you nearly enough incentive for leveling up as kills do. You don't need, and nor you're encouraged to, interact with any of your teammates, and all this does is just dumb down the game. It boils the gameplay down to shoot the men and nothing else essentially, especially considering just how fucking difficult it is for the rebels to win Walker Assault, when they said they fixed it in the beta, but did they fuck? Given the fact that it's pointless to even go for objectives, it just encourages both sides to just play a big TDM, except one side is vastly more fucking powerful than the other. And before any prick says something along the lines of, it's a casual game, it doesn't need to be balanced, just fuck off with that logic. There is zero reason why this game can't appeal to both core and casual players. People looking for shooty fun times with Star Wars would still get exactly that. Now for me personally, something that bothers me about this game also is that there are zero accuracy debuffs on your weapon, period. No matter what you're doing, running, jumping or jetpacking, your gun will always be as accurate. Overall, the cards are fairly balanced-ish, but again, it would work so much better within a fixed class system. It probably sounds like I personally would just want the game to be a Battlefield clone, and you know what, frankly I think the game would have benefited greatly from that, yes. As I've said, it basically was a Battlefield clone anyway, and I know that doesn't necessarily mean that they shouldn't change that, but they did, and it came at a huge cost. Frankly, some of the cards are actually incredibly overpowered, despite saying that they're mostly balanced. Some of them are just designed to basically just be a cooldown one-shot weapon, when they would work much better as secondary weapons that were balanced within the game. This would also allow for side-specific classes again, such as the Wookiee or, whatever, which is again just something that we won't get anymore. I would have said Destroyer Droid, but again, we'll get to that as well. And it's just a shame that if it was in a class-specific, type game, having those side-specific classes is something that would have separated it apart from Battlefield. So you may be thinking, well, how does removing the class system from the game actually affect the game in the way that you're saying it does? Well, when you think about it, removing the class system has a lot of byproduct effects. So when you don't have a healing class, the need for a slower regenerative health is scrapped, so you need to have fast regenerating health. They've made it so none of the guns require ammo, so then you don't need anyone to drop you ammo, so that's obviously been taken out of the game. So having the class system, what it does is it limits what each player can do to a certain amount, and it means that you need to rely on other players to help you, such as drop health, drop ammo, and other players are incentivized to do so, via points rewards. It's just, it's very clear in Battlefield games this is how it kind of works. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that have just been removed out of the game from the removal of classes. You can't play a recon anymore, so you can't mark targets, you can't play a sniper, so you're far away from the action. There's nothing like that. Everyone is kind of forced into the action essentially. no vehicles as well, so there's no engineering class. Like, there is vehicles in the game, sure, but really all you've got to deal with is the ATSTs, and they're not really that common, so you don't need a class that has heavy weapons to take them down. So as you can see, all these things kind of pile up and just ultimately simplify the game like quite a lot. It's really, and this isn't just like my speculation, this is like very obvious design choices that have like a cause and effect on the gameplay. And when you lay it out like this, I think it should be quite obvious like that the removal of the class system does in fact impact the game in such a dramatic way. Okay, so again, I think one of the reasons why I have a problem with this is simply because although they've removed the class based system, and that is fine, and replaced it with a custom loadout, the game itself still technically plays like these large scale battle games, which tend to favour class-based systems. So by taking that out and not really changing the gameplay around it, it's just this really weird contrast in experience. Like I said, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't do that. I just think that overall the large-scale battle system just fares better with the sort of fixed, semi-fixed class system. And I mean, they had it right and everybody enjoyed it in the last games, so I don't really see why it was necessary to change it other than attempting to appeal to a wider audience, which I genuinely don't see how it's even doing that. The battle pickup system further solidifies this by giving things that should be class-specific items, shields, turrets, rocket launchers, as random drops to players. Again, this is yet another thing that decreases the amount of strategy involved in the game. Items that would normally be part of a loadout need to be found, so you can't rely on getting them, or anyone having what you need in a specific situation, which really fucking sucks, right? Some of the items are ludicrously powerful as well, such as the orbital strike, which just really shouldn't be there, honestly, especially if you're in a class-based game. If an ATST is fucking your shit up, you cannot at all rely on engineers to use rocket launchers on it, because it's just fucking random chance whether you get it or not. The charge system for your triangle card makes literally no fucking sense. Why is that in the game? Right, seriously, can anybody please explain to me what possible need there is for that? Seriously, I want someone to explain why the fuck that you press triangle and you only get like 25 uses of it, and then you need to like find +1 charge and shit like that. Why? I cannot. I have nothing else to say. It's just dumb. It's fucking bad design. Like, terrible. So while we are still on the battle pickup system, why on earth are the vehicles battle pickups? Just waiting for an answer. Because yet again, more things discouraging players from anything other than just shoot things. If you like playing vehicles, then it's literally just chance if you get it. It doesn't bring anything to the table. It's a system without praise. Not only is there a pitiful selection of actual vehicles available, it also means that more than one person can't be in a vehicle at a time, so you can say goodbye to troop transports or teamwork, such as bringing down AT-ATs and A-Wings. I've seen people use the excuse, it stops people camping at the spawn for vehicles. Literally, what? Sorry, at what fucking point was that ever a problem? This only creates problems. There's also a huge imbalance. The only land vehicle the rebels get are the fucking speeder bikes, which you only get on one map, which for some reason isn't a pickup. What? But all the other ones are. The Imperials get the AT-ST and the AT-AT on all maps, which are a huge force that the rebels have absolutely fucking nothing to compare to. If you're lucky enough to get the AT-AT pickup, you're guaranteed to get the most kills in the game. And in at least 8 or so hours of gameplay, I've not once gotten it. I've also not gotten a hero pickup either, but the heroes I find to be less of a problem. They're really more of like a fun random thing, and I'm personally not sure how I would even balance them out either, so let me hear your ideas for that. In a perfect world, in a perfect game, I would say that the player with the most non-kill points can get the chance to play as a hero, which would vastly encourage the amount of teamwork, don't you think? So while we are on the subject of vehicles, but is it just me, or do spaceships handle like total arse? They use a one-stick controls system, akin to what like flying games use like Ace Combat, but the problem here is that it's not a plane, it's a spaceship. It gives very limited control over what you can and can't do. Whilst in Star Wars Battlefront 2, you had a 2-stick system that allowed for much more control of the vehicle. Again, I understand they're dumbing down our systems, but this is yet another thing that could just have had 2 control schemes, and if people just want to play a simpler one that's less robust, they can, and if people that want to just play one that gives you more control, then they can do that as well. It gives the choice. Another thing I want to talk about is the removal of space battles. Now, a lot of people said that they were shit in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and look, right, I'll actually admit that they don't hold up amazingly well. But that isn't the point at all. The potential for what space battles could have been is amazing in this game. The updated graphics, along with the improving systems, like having extra objectives with different types of space battles, having to destroy parts of the enemy ship while defending your own. Really, this could have been amazing. And yeah, it's just been left out, which is truly saddening, especially considering what we got in its place, which was just a dogfight on each map. The map's been literally nothing either. Sure, it looks cool, it's a spectacle, but that doesn't make a good game, and it really wears thin quickly. So alright, let's talk about the fucking spawn system. This is such a huge, huge issue I have with the game that is utterly inconceivable that what they put in the game was even made to the final release. Literally one of the worst spawn systems I've ever played in a game in my life. In fact, probably the worst. A big complaint of mine is that the game isn't 32v32, or wasn't 32v32, and I can see why this is now, because the spawn system is made in such a way where all it does is designed to clump players together to give the impression that more people are actually playing the game. It might make for cool looking encounters for the first few hours, but past that it is a massive detriment to gameplay. It's massive. Not being able to pick a fucking spawn point means that you regularly get plonked in the middle of fucking gunfire or sent miles away and have to run all the way back to where you were. Additionally, it is yet more removal of mechanics, allowing for a semblance of strategy. Now you can no longer pick a tactical position or just even more convenient location, you just have to go where it tells you. This goes hand in hand with the atrocious party system, allowing you to spawn only one person, even if you're in a party with 8 people, so the removal of the squad system for this piece of arse just serves to limit gameplay. I mean, was it really that fucking confusing for people? Bottom line is, the game should have been 32-32 with multiple spawn locations which would keep the number of players in any one area high, whilst allowing for flexibility of where you want to fucking go. Going along with this, there is no map for any of the levels you play on, so you have a very limited grasp of the overall layout of any area. I can't think of many shooters, or any for that matter, that don't have a map screen. I literally have no idea what the actual layout of Endor is like. Okay, so another slightly smaller problem is the lack of server/ongoing games list. A problem I have is that it's easy enough to play any specific mode, but the problem arises when you want to play or not want to play any specific map. There's no way of knowing what games are being played currently on any specific map, so you just have to chance that a game is being played on the one you want, or it just sticks you in a lobby yourself if you pick that map and nothing is currently being played on it. Are people really that stupid that they can't use a fucking server list? The worst part is how indicative this is of the overall design of the game. They can have the quick action selection that most people will use, but a lot of people would have loved a server list so they can actually see what games and what modes are worthwhile joining, and this can easily appeal to both audiences. Well, I say audiences, but no, a quality product is not something on the agenda here. Fucking Resistance Fall of Man for the PS3 let you make your own fucking custom lobbies at launch on the PS3 like 9 years ago, and barely any games have let you do this, and it baffles me. Like, you needed to pay EA the privilege of running their servers in Battlefield 3 and 4, and yet Resistance Fall of Man just let you create games in servers just a part of the game, which was a release game for the PS3. So now we can move on to some of the more scumbag elements surrounding the game. When it comes to maps and indeed overall content, the game is lacking quite a lot, I'm sure we would all agree, especially in comparison to Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 had 29 maps in the base game spread over many planets, and Battlefront 2015 is like a little weird when it comes to this. I will give the game the benefit of the doubt and say the base game had 5 planets, although 2 of them are basically the same, let's be fair. Each planet has a bunch of different maps, however most of the maps are just cut up parts of one big map that you play the 40 player modes on. To be fair, each planet does have at least one map that isn't part of the big map, but that only brings the base game up to like 10 properly unique areas. Even when you include the free maps they gave you, which I think are pretty shit maps, both the Hoth one is okay, the 2 Endor ones are just the same map except one at night and one on fire, but that's very subjective, so whatever, the fact that they gave you is good. It just mostly boils down to variety of areas. It's still pitiful. You have desert, forest, snow, and whatever Sullust is. So great, you have what is essentially 4 different fucking areas. Now, I feel this point is a little more subjective, as some people might be satisfied with this, but I am not at all, because we've already had more in previous games. One main reason is, where the fuck is the Clone Wars, right? Now, before anyone says anything along the lines of, the prequels were shit, just shut up. Seriously, stop making excuses. Like, especially when it doesn't benefit you, like, you're missing out on content, right? Is that an excuse for leaving out content? Good content? The prequels might have been shit, but there were plenty of really awesome battles and awesome locations, and they're just simply gone. Cool locations not in the movies from previous games have fucked off as well. This is really awful when like 40%-ish of the game's overall content is hidden behind DLC. Very powerful items are season pass only. Modes and maps are standard things, sure, but given the lack of them in the base game, it just seems like it was done on purpose in order to get people to buy the season pass in order to get an acceptable amount of maps. Not only that, they shove the season pass in your face constantly in the main menus and show you that what you're missing out on. Now, I'm not against DLC, don't get me wrong. I'd rather it not be a thing, that's a different discussion, but it is. But when DLC is issued in such an aggressive, overpriced way such as this, it just really fucks me off, and it should fuck you off as well. Especially when the main game's content is lacking so much, and especially when what is essentially the third installment in this series, I don't care what it is, it presented as such, has less content than previous games in the series. So it doesn't just end here. We can now mention the progression system in the game. The game takes for fucking ever to level up, and it seems to me like it was done this way to artificially increase the game's length. Think about it, the gameplay is very shallow and you get most of what the game can offer you in under 10 hours. However, it takes forever to level up, slowly drip feeding you new items to slightly mix up what little content the game has. But it's fine! For the low price of £16, you can just unlock all the items anyway. Great, it's fun. Take all the game out of the game. I hate this shit so much. Right, so now, I get that it's optional, but given how slow the leveling is, you can see exactly what they're trying to do. It's not even subtle. Also, just as a point, the best weapon in the game, Han Solo's pistol, is the last unlock, and it takes you to level 25 to get it. Or, right, you can just pre-order the game and get it. Now, the single player content of this game is horrifyingly shallow. Now, I want to go down on the record for saying that I don't care about if the game has a single player or not. That really isn't the issue here. The issue is EA charging full retail price for a game that basically doesn't have a single player. The effort that went into the single player would be much better spent on more online content, frankly. Now, on the flip side, a lot of people do care about the single player, and that's fine. And for those people, you get fuck all for your money, which is incredible. The game should have been £30 max at launch. I don't want to go on too much about this point because frankly I do feel like the way this game plays doesn't really favour a single player at all anyway, and I personally can't think of a way that would make single player amazing. Some kind of galactic conquest would be nice, but honestly it isn't really all that great in the previous games, and this game only has 5 planets. And in the base game anyway, and no classes, so it would require the full fucking game to be fixed first before they could really implement a single player. I mean, not necessarily, but really with a single player being that great, some fucking piss thin story, and you do a few fucking missions or whatever, like, is that really what you care about when most of the time spent is going to be spent on online multiplayer anyway? Okay, so this brings us to the last part of the video. I'm going to list off a few smaller points that are nitpicky, okay? I'm going down and saying they are nitpicky. They are supposed to be nitpicky, but it's just to emphasise that the amount of things wrong with the game, each point is so small, so I don't have much to say on each, but you need to take into account that these points themselves definitely do not contribute to a bad game, but it's just yet more things on the already massive pile of shit that this game is, right? So, guns don't fire at the crosshair properly, which is so fucking strange. Like, there's times when you'll be shooting, like, as you can see in the clip, what's happening, like, this kind of shit happens all the time. So, the radar is so terrible, it might as well not even be there. Like, I don't know why they thought that was an okay idea. Why not at least give us, like some kind of Call of Duty radar where you can at least see the map around you, you can see where enemies are for periods of time. Just what you've got is terrible. Like, they've got the same thing in Destiny, it's fucking awful, right? The voice acting is atrocious, like, to the point it's hilariously bad. Terrible customization. Emotes, I don't really care so much about that. I mean, they're there, whatever, fun thing, but the customization is awful. Like, you get nothing, especially if you're like the Empire, where you're wearing a helmet anyway. Although I've seen people without a helmet, I don't know how to take it off. But then you only get the interest in heads until you're fucking level 30 plus anyway. So again, it's the whole awful progression system. Diorama mode. Like, what the fuck? Development time was spent on that. Like, what the... Who gives half a fuck about that? Right. Droid Run and Hero Hunt have the most retarded scoring systems, and I've not even played them. I'm just going to straight up say not even played them, so if this point has been fixed or whatever, but apparently how Droid Run and Hero Hunt works is just whoever gets the last point, as opposed to with Hero Hunt, whoever does the most damage to a hero gets to play as the hero, or with Droid Run, whoever has overall the most control of the droid. It's just whoever has the last control or the last hit. How is that fun? Like, how does that even make sense? Who balanced that? Who thought that was a fine idea? Okay, so given that there are 4 DLCs, and at this point in time 2 of them are out, and, well, there's 3 now actually, and for the light side we have Han, Leia, and Luke, Nien Nub, and Lando. It means no matter what, we miss out on one of either Yoda, Obi-Wan, or Chewbacca. Given that every enemy is a basic human, I would bet it's going to be Yoda, but we're missing out on him, and as far as I'm aware, Chewbacca has been confirmed at this point, so it means that probably the next hero is going to be Obi-Wan. But yeah, regardless, we miss out on Yoda, so we're just not like nice things, basically. But yeah. So anyway, guys, that brings me to the end of the video. Now, I know this probably sounded a bit whiny the whole time, or just ranting and complaining, but I've actually got a 4,000 word fucking essay for this thing. So hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it, tell me and I'll make more. This is gonna be part of like a big series, like just taking games and then like actually breaking it down and explaining why things are bad. Hope I've done a good job of it. Yeah, so just like, comment, subscribe, and especially subscribe if this is the first video you've been watching and you want to see more of it. So yeah, I guess I'll leave you guys there to contemplate how awful this game is. So see you in the next video, guys. Bye.